So let's go ahead and talk about, yeah, you were mentioning about, okay, we only have so many days for this, so many days for that. So tell the good folks, when does early voting start?
Early vote starts October 22nd through November 2nd. If you need a ride to the polls, go to at El Voto es Latino on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and just put on there, hey, I need a ride. Take me to the polls. And we'll make sure that you get hooked up. Right now, our organization is raising money to take people to the polls. All we need is a name and address, and we'll make sure that you get on our list to be able to be taken to the polls to vote. It's very, very, very important that we get you out. Si solamente hablas español, vamos a tener unas venes que van a llevar a personas que necesitan que ir a las urnas para votar. Empezamos a votar el 22 de octubre hasta el 2 de noviembre. Solamente necesitas que ir a Facebook en El Voto es Latino y nosotros podemos llevarte para allá. Solamente mándanos tu nombre, tu domicilio y el horario en cuando te podamos llevar.
So first off, thank you for your service.
Thank
It
you.
means a lot. So one of the things that state senators do, we cannot, especially myself, who is a first-time candidate, we just don't know enough about all of the issues. And being a public school teacher, I'm great on public education, but I'm not as well versed as I need to be on Veterans Affairs. So I'd like you to kind of go over that with me. Tell me about your history and also what issues are important to you.
So I think that it's real good when we have candidates that actually are talking to people, like real people, not a robot that is going to be throwing all this money into your campaign. I think that the most rewarding and the most valuable thing that someone can give a candidate is firsthand experience, firsthand stories of the things that we live. So I am a daughter of an undocumented immigrant that came to this country at a real young age. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 21, and I always tell my friends that I was going to die a Marine, you know, one way or another, either old and decrepit or on the battlefield. And I don't know, it sounds like real funny, I guess, for someone to say that, or weird, but I would always tell people that. They would be asking me, well, what are you gonna do after this? And I'd be like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. This is my life. Like, this is it. Plan B is death. So I always plan on staying in the Marine Corps and ruling it. I would always tell people, I'm going to be the first female sergeant major of the Marine Corps unless somebody beats me to it. And my husband and I would always joke about that. When we met, we were both sergeants, and he would say, I'm Sergeant Motivator, but I'd be like, okay, we all know that I'm Sergeant Motivator, so let's just get it together. We would always talk about, some of the plans that we had when we retired. I never thought that I would retire after almost 11 years, or only serving almost 11 years. My transition out of the Marine Corps was a really difficult one, and I think that a lot of times when elected officials are making decisions, they don't think about that. Why? Because they don't sit down like this to have those conversations. Because for one, I know that I recently did a video for Beto where I talked about PTSD and how we have 20 veterans a day that commit suicide. And there's a lot of elected officials that don't talk about that at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level, because they can't stomach it. They don't want to bring it up, but those are the uncomfortable conversations that need to be had with veterans, because we go through it all the time. There's things that we have to deal with in our lives: family, finances, education, time. Like, sometimes you don't have enough time to put in all these different things, and then you want to get involved in the community, but you can't, because you have to do all this other stuff, or you have to work long hours or 2 jobs to make sure that you make ends meet, and then go to school full time, and then have to take care of the family. So it's a lot to take on. And the difference between me and other veterans was that I didn't use post 9/11 I used voc rehab benefits. And with those benefits, you have to have at least a 10% service-connected disability. And so I obviously had that. And
So the PTSD or?
no, for me it was I had some medical issues that started happening when I was on deployment. Okay. And I had something really severe that happened to me when I was in Afghanistan. It was like 3 days before I was supposed to come back to the States. So it was really weird. So I ended up having to stay there longer because I was in the ER. So that kind of sucked because I was like, man. So when I did start going to school, I was learning a little bit more and more about the benefits. But when we transferred here, I did my first semester in South Carolina, and then my husband got orders here. And I started going to school at TCC South Campus, and I learned about the Hazelwood Act. There's a lot of veterans and dependents that have benefited from that. I have a friend that I went to school with at TCC and then transferred to UNT that used her dad's Hazelwood Act benefits. And her dad was in the Air Force. He passed away several years ago, but she was able to, and she's brilliant, but she was able to go to school because of those benefits, because of the change of the benefits in 2009. And so with dependents and spouses being able to use those, being able to transfer those benefits to them, veterans transfer to their families, it really opened up the door for a lot of veterans to be able to give that educational advantage to their families.
Can I ask, what do you think, because we're learning a lot about people who have served and they're being deported. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think there should be legislation saying no, that is a clear pathway to citizenship?
Well, on the federal level, yes, but I think that at the state level, I think that one thing that can be done is provide more funding to veterans treatment courts.
Okay.
So these specialty courts, what they do is that they allow veterans an opportunity to be able to get their feet back on the ground. And so, you know, I've volunteered and worked with the Veterans Treatment Court in Tarrant County. Okay. And I've seen a lot of great things. Their recidivism rate, I think, is like about 12 to 15%. And so, yeah, it's great. Why? Because they set them up for success. They require them to go to counseling, to air out. The thing is that with veterans that do not get their citizenship, and for whatever reason, whether it be because they didn't know, they thought, because some veterans will tell you that have been deported, that they thought that they automatically, when they enlisted, that they automatically got their citizenship. Another is that they just, you know, didn't apply for it. But either way, you know, they should get it. I mean, we had
it seems like there should be more information out there for them.
Yeah, and there is a little bit more now, but the older generation of veterans that got out, they didn't have all that information. It's not the same. So like now, like in the Marine Corps, when I was a drill instructor, because we didn't have this when I was a recruit, but when I was a drill instructor, we would take recruits to citizenship classes. Okay. And on Family Day, the day before graduation, they would have their ceremony. And so it was really great because everyone could see, you know, these individuals, if you're joining just to get your citizenship, then you should get it. If you give them 4 years of your life, 5 years, 6 years of your life, why not get it? I was reading about the Texas A&M, I don't know, the president of Texas. What the state can do is that they can provide opportunities for these veterans, just like a veteran that is a U.S. citizen, for these veterans that aren't U.S. citizens to go through the Veterans Treatment Court. Something needs to be done about that. And the thing is that now we have counties, like the sheriff's office or local law enforcement agencies that are working with ICE. So these individuals end up getting deported. And that's not right.
It's not, no.
I mean, and
It's heartbreaking. I mean, just yeah, you served, but yeah,
like,
we're done
thank you
with
for your service. Bye, Felicia.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much like that. It sucks to say that because
But maybe it
when
needs to be said that way.
it does, it absolutely does. I think that people need to really think about it. So with the Hazelwood Act, the last legislative session, there was a bill that was put up to make it so that veterans had to serve, I believe it's 6 years, and then an amendment that was introduced to make it 4 years. So the 6 year is a problem because right now it's 180 days, and it's an issue because sometimes individuals will join and they serve one enlistment, which is a lot of times for enlisted it's 4 to 5 years, depending on what MOS, what job they go into. And with commissioned with officers, it varies. I think it's anywhere from 5 to 6 years. So the thing is that sometimes if an individual gets hurt or something else happens that they have to get out because maybe family, then it creates a problem because they're not eligible for this. And as we've seen that it's already difficult for individuals that are economically disadvantaged, it's important to know what the Hazelwood Act is exactly. And it's not a scholarship, it's not funding that comes from the state to the university, like with the GI Bill, that you get a stipend for your books and other necessities, and that the federal government is paying for your tuition. No, the school, it's like you're going to school for free. Like literally, like you show up in class and the only thing you're paying for is just your extras, books and all that. So the school isn't getting anything out of that. So I understand how individuals on the other side are saying, well, the school is losing all these funds, and they're losing money, but that money is supposed to be being replaced by the state, and the state legislature is not giving these public universities and colleges the money that they need to replace that. And so yes, now
So what you're speaking of is that SB 1735, which would have limited funding for the Hazelwood Act.
Yes, and that's a problem because, like I said, it's like you're keeping the little man down, you know? That's just another way. And I don't like playing this whole party politics thing. Like this, supporting a bill like SB 1735 is a big no-no. You can't do that. Why are you going to be taking away from veterans something that the Hazelwood?
But it is disturbing that, you know, when we see our politicians in their stump speeches, and these are our elected officials currently, the incumbents, they're always commenting on veterans and thanking you for your service, but they don't seem to back it up with the legislation, and they do things like this, limiting funds for college. So they're not really supporting our veterans. And
no, they're not.
A veteran having to go and say, well, you know what, I'm going to have to.
It's just really disappointing because I hear a lot of that. Oh, I want to do this for veterans, or I want to do that, and then they also don't take the time to sit down and ask the questions.
Right.
And instead of saying, this is what I'm going to do for you, you need to sit down, shut up, and tell me, hey, what can I do?
Listen to a person that's actually been there.
Yeah.
That's walking the walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they basically talk the talk.
Yeah, I hate that crap.
That seems to be the way it works.
Yeah, but I think that the legislation like SB 1735 is really, really harmful for Texas veterans that are eligible for it. And if individuals like Kelly Hancock continue to try to push that, then we need to get them out.
Right.
Because no one should be in the Texas legislature should be supporting a bill like that.
Right.
You should not. That you're not doing anything. What you need to do is need to stop putting money into private schools, like charter schools,
Right.
so that we can fund more public schools.
Right.
You need to make sure that you fork up your part of the bill on public education, higher
Right.
education, so that way the tuition cost doesn't continue to rise,
Right.
and those other economically disadvantaged individuals are not having to carry the burden of that cost.
Right.
And that way, and the thing too is that sometimes we're misinformed. We think that it's the colleges when it's not. It's our legislature. It's our elected officials.
Well, and they're the puppet masters, so
Yeah.
to speak. And like I know in colleges, the governor's supports the Board of Regents. Appoints the Board of Regents. And then the Board of Regents can then determine tuition, but they've been appointed by the governor. So the governor's hands are free, and they can put it back on the college. But really, they're the ones that are, doing they're the puppet masters. So yeah, those are some of the things that happen as far as that. And also, when they give tax breaks to corporations, the big corporations, they get all the tax breaks that rather than taking the money that they're saving by higher property rates, so people are putting more property taxes into education, but rather than taking that savings and putting it back in to fund education, again, they're giving the tax breaks to the big corporations, and they totally forget about everyday people.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what's happening.
These next elections are really going to, they're really going to be telling. And I really hope that, me being a part of the veteran community here in SD9, that veterans wake the hell up and know who is representing them in Austin. Because he's not representing my interests, I'll tell you that. And this is going to be the first time that I get to vote in this district where he is supposed to be representing me. And I'll tell you, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed.
Not impressed with his record.
No. He needs to do a whole lot better. And until he starts asking the right people the questions, and not people that are
going through it,
pouring money into his campaign. Because the most valuable thing, like I said, that you can give a candidate is your story.
Right.
That's the most valuable, because they can take that to Austin.
That
can help
a real life experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to build relationships, not some facade of what you like they say, you throw crap on a canvas and call it art. That's I feel like what they're doing with all this.
Right.
You need to sit down, you need to really talk to people. You can't represent people if you don't know them.
Right.
And it's a big district. Yeah, I get you're not going to know every single person, but you're not going to know anyone if you're not holding town halls and talking to people. And town halls that are specifically for certain groups, for teachers.
Right.
For public school teachers, or even just for teachers in general. Bring those that are teaching in charter schools and bring those that are teaching in public education, talk about it.
Right.
Bring veterans into the conversation about things that matter to them that you could do, because there's a lot that the state can do for veterans. Bring immigrant families into the conversation. Let them know that they might not be able to vote for you, but they have family members that can if you're doing right by them, because they're constituents no matter what. They live in your district, you represent them.
Right, and they're paying taxes here.
Exactly. Bring a conversation about women. Sit down with women and have a talk about, things that are important to women.
Right.
Healthcare, education, employment, equal pay.
Simple things.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. That's right. We're not you know,
criminal justice, another one.
Yes, absolutely, because
Homelessness.
we're not listening to and that homelessness ties in a lot to Veterans Affairs because a lot of our veterans end up homeless.
Yeah.
So,
but I think that this next, you know, I think that looking at legislators that are doing things for veterans, you know, we've seen people on both sides of the aisle that have done things, and I give props to anyone that has been able to do great things for veterans.
right.
You know, I know a lot of great individuals on the House side. Victoria Nave, who helped pass, push to make June 12th Women Veterans Day.
Oh.
That's amazing.
Right.
But that work needs to continue.
Right.
You know, and you need people in both the Senate and the House
Right.
to be doing that work together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have individuals in one house saying, "Oh no, we don't need to do that. No, we don't got issues there."
Right. So.
No,
You know
yeah,
what?
we
They
do.
don't vote very much, so we really don't have issues very.
Yeah.
So that's
And
another thing.
homelessness within the veteran community is a big issue.
Yeah.
In where that there's services provided for homeless male veterans, but not homeless female veterans. They have shelters that provide all these services, which is amazing. But we have homeless veterans that are females that are put with general pop, and they should have the same services
Right.
and the same, I want to say, luxuries that the males do too.
Right.
You know, I visited with my friend some of the shelters here in Fort Worth, and I was like, "Where do y'all house the females at?" And they're like, "We don't." I was like, "What?" So if I was homeless,
You're in with them.
I'm in with everyone else.
Which could definitely be problematic.
Yeah.
Considering,
Especially those that
Put you at
have
risk.
issues with things related to the military,
Right.
whatever it may be, military sexual trauma, anything related to combat. So why not? I mean,
Yeah.
women have deployed and
Yes.
they go through the same things that their male counterparts go through. I know.
Yeah.
And so
You serve equally.
Exactly.
Why not? Why are you not treated equally? Yeah.
Exactly. And until we start to fix that, it's going to be a lot of the same.
Yes, but I like what you said about the stories, because also I think that's why candidates such as Beto O'Rourke, Congressman O'Rourke, have come forward, have propelled to what the status they have, is because that's what he's doing all the time. He's listening to stories from people, and that's what we need to learn from what he's doing, because that's how people find it. I mean, they endear themselves to him because he gets it. He understands, you know, you have a story to tell. I want to represent you. And so myself, always knowing that, having that teacher's heart, we can listen to stories as well as, you know, we did that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely listening to people.
It's effective. And I'll tell you.
Citizens, I mean, yeah, I mean, not even, I mean, the citizen or the people who live in your district, you need to listen to them, because it's just not happening.
And you need to keep up with what's happening.
Yeah.
You really do. I'll tell you, not just because she's my boss, but because it's real.
Yeah.
So Victoria Nave, she is so invested in her district. Like, she knows everything about everything. She gets involved. She is really a person to follow and admire, because she looks at issues that are not being addressed and that are not being talked about, and she addresses them. You know, the rape kit backlog, Women Veterans Day, and you know, she put the sexual violence task force together, where they're looking at all these different areas where women are being affected. So we need to have more people like that have conversations. You know, gosh.
And these are hard conversations,
Yes.
but they need to happen.